Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Equalizer Season 3, Episode 17. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. This is a very heartbreaking, yet also beautiful episode at the same time. I ain't gonna lie to you, the ending made me choke up a lot. It just... obviously what this episode means in just totality, but obviously what it meant for Robin. Obviously, she's at that place that Vi took Delilah earlier in the season with the whole gumbo situation. They're back there because none of them have been there since Robin's dad died, I believe. I think that's, or maybe it was their own parents. I can't remember what it was. I think it was, I think it was Robin's dad. Like, the moment he died, like, that's why she stopped going there after all these years. And it's Robin's first time back, and someone drops off a note telling her, like, yo, like, you need to go find the truth. And she figures this has to have something to do with her father's death. Especially, it's something that's haunted Robin for 30 years. That she blamed herself because she talks about it. Her and her dad had a deal that she could go party it up, drink as much as she want to, he wasn't completely cool with it, but it's like, fine, if you're going to do that, at least call me so I can come and get you. And he never showed up. So at first she thought like, oh, he's trying to teach me a lesson. So she walked home, never knowing the truth until later that he was carjacked and killed that night. And she's blamed herself ever since. It's like, if I hadn't, my dad wouldn't have been where he was at that time. And it's just like, that guilt has stayed with her. That guilt is the reason why she does what she does now. Like, I guess that's eventually why she probably joined the military, why she eventually joined the CIA, why she does what she does now, because she wants to help people, because her father's killer was never caught. And that guilt about trying to do something good in the world is what motivated her to do what she is now, where she is now. So... and obviously, like, Rob's been in a situation beforehand where she's tried to handle stuff alone, and it's never good. But especially, this ain't the first time Rob's kind of going out seeking vengeance. It's not. Obviously, after Bishop, she was seeking vengeance. Even before the whole Bishop situation, she was kind of seeking vengeance against Home Dude. But this is obviously hits home because this is connected to 30 years worth of trauma, pain, and guilt. And ultimately, she finds out that the place where the car was held at is by a guy named Demetrius. Because they ended up tracking down a girl, like, her nickname was, like, Dolly. She worked at a place all these years ago. And the reason why her name tag was in Robin's dad's car is because John picked her up because she was being harassed by some dudes. And, John did his thing. He did a very manly thing of like, yo, you're harassing this girl. Hey, he was trying to give them every opportunity. He's like, hey, let's walk away. It's done. It's done. And he had to hit him with hit him with a few combos. And that's what it was. It was they were tough guys. They thought like, oh, you're not going to embarrass us. You're going to make us look weak. So they came back for revenge. So Demetrius is one of those guys ultimately, but Demetrius went to jail like 10 years ago, but in prison he changed his life around. He found Islam, he changed his name to Abdul, and he has done a lot for his community. But for Robin, it's like, I mean, she didn't know that until she saw him, because it's like, wait, like, you were involved with my father's murder, but why did you reach out to me? And the reason why he did is because he was looking for absolution, because he's done a lot of terrible things in his life. He's like, I was not a good person. But, for him, it's like, and I think this could still circle back around, is he talked about his son disappeared and he never found out whatever happened to his son. And he's thinking, what happened to him? Like my son disappeared, like he would be about 14 now, because his son disappeared while he was in prison. And it's like, I never knew what happened to him, and then not knowing is the worst part. And I'm going through that for 10 years. I put you and your entire family through that for 30 years. And he wanted to try and make things right. So the moment he was like, okay, I'm the one that pulled the trigger, whatever vengeance you want to enact, you have to. But he was also trying to tell her, like, vengeance basically corrodes the soul. You'll never find any peace that way. But for her, it's like, I'm not after peace. Vengeance is what I want. And, and in her mind, that vengeance and justice, it is intertwined in this regard. But the moment Abdul was like, oh, no, I'm the one that pulled the trigger. She's like, no, you're lying. Like, who are you covering? Because I thought the guy in particular is going to be someone powerful, which he is, but I thought it was going to be more so on the other side of things. So like, oh, like maybe he's still, either it's going to be a thing of he works in the more government side of things. Like he's a high powered person now. Like he was able to bury his past and become like a prominent, like, I don't know if I was going to think like senator or something, but I thought he had made a powerful play. Like he was a powerful person now, which he is. He's a powerful crime boss that no one's been able to touch because he keeps himself so isolated that his men take the fall for him, that over the years he's never taken a fall. He's never spent a single moment in jail. So Robin is determined to go after this guy. His name is Yancey. He's a punk, a street punk that worked his way up and became a big time crime boss. No one can get close to him. No one even knows how to like find him because he just stays so elusive. But Rob was able to use her friend Marlon, who she met earlier in the episode. They used to do some carjacking stuff back in the day, but you know, obviously Marlon eventually went straight, and he ended up he details cars now, and his connection to Yancey, it's like he used to roam with Yancey and his crew way back in the day, but his only connection to Yancey, it's like he details their cars sometimes. It's like, I think it's a thing of like, hey, I'm not directly involved with them, but business is business, so no matter who you are. But obviously he had no idea Yancey had anything to do with Rob's dad's death, but it's like, because Rob's dad, you know, John meant a lot to him as well, because it's like, your dad gave me advice about, like, yeah, I keep going down this road I'm going to end up dead in the streets. And those words didn't really mean as much until he got shot, and then he realized, and that's what set his life on the correct path. And that's like the really heartbreaking thing, because it's like, as we saw, the little we got with John was enough to be like, he was a good dude. He was a good father. He was a good person, just looking out for anyone. I mean, that's the only reason why he died, is because he was helping out a young lady that was in distress. He saw someone, because for him, it's probably like, he probably put himself in the shoes of like, that young girl could easily be my daughter. I would want someone to do that for my daughter. So, you know, probably like, it's like, oh, you can't be that much older than Rob, you know, and let me make sure you get taken home, you know. But using Marlon as a way to get close to Yancey where his cars are stored, because that's most likely where he is, so that the cars could go be taken and detailed, Robin finds him and confronts Yancey and is about to put a bullet in him until Dante shows up. And it's like, yo, you don't want to do this. Like, the fact of the matter is, yes, a lot was taken from your family, but even more so will be taken if you do this. Your family needs you. I need you. And so Rob doesn't kill him. I was thinking, like, there's no way this is over because there's so much time left in the episode. And Robin was thinking, like, right, I finally got justice for Dad. I'll let the system do its thing. But the problem is the system failed her like it did her before. Like, it never found her dad Dad's murder in all these years. It took Robin doing it herself, especially because the guilt of, I was young back then, I was 17 back then, I couldn't do anything. I'm older now. I have the power, I have the connections that I can make something happen now. And so, when the system fails her again, because Yancey's got high-priced lawyers, he's got powerful people in his pocket, that DA Grafton was like, I don't know if I could, like, actually get this to stick, so they dropped the charges against him. And so for Robin, it's like, nah, the system failed, I'm gonna handle this myself. She was gonna go to war with Yancey. It's like, no, but he's on guard now. He knows you're coming. And so, when the time comes, you know, Vi tries to talk her out of it, but it's like, I know once you've made up your mind, you're going to stick with it. Because it's like, once again, it comes down to that guilt of, I have been living with this guilt and I have to make this right, you know, for everyone's sake, you know, my own, but also Dad's sake. I have to make this right. And so she ended up going after Yancey. And there was also a flashback when she was dealing with a bully, and that just shows you also Robin's character. She's always been that person. It's like, I got into a fight with this girl, but she's like, Dad, this girl is like, she, just because she's the biggest, like, she ends up like bullying like smaller kids. It's like showing you who Robin's character is and always has been, because, and as we see the foundation of, like, yeah, her dad was a good guy, and that's why she's a good guy that she is. So I think that's why he also probably cut her some slack. I don't know, like, if that was beforehand or if that's still within the same time frame of him helping out that girl, Dolly. Like, I don't know if it was, because Dolly's not her real name, but it was like a nickname or whatever. But I don't know if like that's the same week, because if it was, that's probably why he was a little more lenient on Rob, because he was saying like, right, you don't have to turn to violence. Like, talk to one of the teachers. It's like, I try to, but whenever she makes sure to do stuff when the teachers aren't around. But he was like, right, she's a bully, huh? And it's like, yeah, it's just because she's bigger and she feels like she can push people around, like, try to pick on people who are smaller and weaker than her. And John was just kind of like, yeah, I get it. Like, for him, it's like, sometimes violence isn't the answer, but sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you have to fight back, which kind of parallels with last episode. Wait, was that last episode? That was the episode before, like, episode 15, about, what Vi's circumstance and what Rob told Delilah. Like, sometimes there's situations where you're backed into a corner, but her dad was telling her, hey, you got to find something worth fighting for, which Rob has, over these years, found something. Obviously, doing this Equalizer thing that she's able to help her clients and stuff. People have nowhere else to turn. I mean, that's also why she's doubly pissed at the system, because she tried to allow the system to help. But it's like, yeah, I should have known better not to fully trust the system, because if the system worked, my clients wouldn't have to turn to me the way that they do. But her dad was kind of, proud of her. And like I said, it's just like that foundation. Her dad was just so fundamental into being the good person, and she is too. And so, I don't know, it makes me kind of get choked up more and more to think about it. It's just like, oh, God, this is just like a heavy episode in that regard. But yeah, she was going to take care of Nancy, and she's surrounded by his goons, got his confession, about why he did what he did. She's like, why my dad? And we look back, and it like Nancy wants to act like he's so hard, but he wasn't. His hands were shaking in front of John. And Demetrius is like, yo, we don't have to do this. Let's just let it go. But for him, it's like, no, this guy, it's going to be the first time and last time that guy's ever going to lay his hands on me. Because once again, he made Nancy feel small, like he got punked. And that's what this was all about. It's just his pride, And now, like, gloating all these years later, but Demetrius knows the truth. Your hands were shaking. You weren't like, you want to act like you're some hardcore criminal, but he's like, yeah, I'm gonna handle this myself this time. But in that moment, Rob had Harry send out all this stuff to every single person there. It turns out Yancey has been screwing over everyone in his gang. It's like, oh yeah, like financially, one guy's like, oh yo, this is while you were locked up, he was spending a lot of time with your wife. It's like, hey, yo, like everyone here, Yancey has screwed you over in some shape or form, and I sent that information to you. And Rob just walked away. He's like, I didn't do anything. Like, I let karma come back and get you. Yeah, because you've been using people for so long that you get by, you skate away with them, like all the terrible things you do because you make other people take the fall for it, and you've been taking advantage of said people. So I can only assume by that ending and the way Rob says he's gone, so they killed Yancey. She was able to, she didn't have to do it. It's like, yeah, like, things worked itself out. It's still that gray area of like, I mean, honestly, I didn't kill him. His men did because they found out about who he was. Plus, you're taking a big piece off the board. To be fair, it is, I mean, not unless they beat the crap out of him and then he ends up at, like, the hospital or something and then, like, I don't know. Oh, yeah, because one of the things is he sold one of his guys out to the feds, made a deal with the feds to sell out one of his people. That was one of the other bits of information we got. So I don't know if that's supposed to be like it seemed like it was they killed him type of thing. So, I mean, it does leave open a power vacuum. Either one of his men are going to rise up to that, or maybe they're just going to scatter, or I don't know. Without Yancey's protection, that game's just fall apart. Like I said, it'll leave like a criminal power vacuum. So we'll see if anyone tries to like fill that void. But Rob does go back to Abdul and like he was like, right, I got all my arrangements in place. Like whatever judgment you seek to push upon me, I accept it. But for Robin, it's like, no, like you dying, you going back to prison would be a waste, because I will never be able to forgive you for what you did to my dad, but at the end of the day, you've done a lot for your community, and you could prevent so many others from going down that same route. He has done a lot of good, and since being locked up, he's done a lot for the community, and that's how he's going to absolve himself of, like, he can never at all make that wrong right, but he can he can right the wrongs of other people. He can put other people on the right paths. And it's like Robin's like, yeah, if you ever do let me down, Robin's like, I will have my vengeance. So always know that. This actually parallels nicely with what Dante's going through this episode. So we find out Lolo's not dead. He's just in a medically induced coma. I was like, well, I thought you were sure dead from that fall, but managed to still be alive. It is a thing that his captain, his commanding officer, she's now like chastising him, obviously, because it's like, right, you shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's like, I heard Lolo was there. I also heard that he was going to try and run. So, but it's like, all right, but this is your last straw. If you don't follow orders again, you're done. And so now it turns out Lolo is suggesting that Dante pushed him, but it's like, no, I didn't. He tried to jump, and that was on him. He didn't make the gap. And she's like, if that's true, but Dante's like, if that's true, it's like, you're not even taking my word for it. And for her, it's like, yeah, like, you know that this precinct has had its issues, so I'm trying to like clean things up. So we're not really in a position to really, like, you know, skirt by the, like, whatever happens, we have to let things play out. You know, you got to trust the system to kind of do things. I didn't talk about, I can't forget to also include Lolo's gun. The gun Lolo took from Dante has been returned. So it luckily seems like he hasn't used it. I was curious if that was going to come up, but I do like it's just a single line of dialogue of like, yeah, at Lolo's place, your gun was retrieved. It hadn't been fired. So luckily in that regard. But for Dante, that moment, she's talking about let the system do its job, because he's basically suspended until the investigation's done. And it's like, how long is that? And like, indefinitely. It's like, oh, let things kind of play out. Trust the system. And friends, like, trust the system. He just saw how it failed Robin, and it's like, right. And he's had to come to terms with that a lot, like the injustices of this system and stuff like that. How it makes you curious what Dante is going to do. I don't think he's going to fully ever give up being a cop to like fully work with Robin and them. Maybe not. I don't know. But it definitely puts him in this position where it's just like, right, I continue to work with a system that fails. Because, like, right, Dante being a cop has benefited them because he has access to certain things that they don't have access to. I mean, you know, without Harry having to illegally, like, you know, break into the cop's file and stuff. Like, it helps having a cop on their side, but I'm curious how long Dante's going to keep going down this route, because it's like, I mean, because I think he believes in it, and I think for him, it's like the only way to make the system better is from the inside. I mean, it's always been an uphill battle for him, because he's always strived to be above and beyond reproach because of his dad, you know? So what this all means for Dante now, he's walking without a badge, and you know, I mean, yes, he still has his family, but for him, it's like, this is his calling, and I'm so curious to see what he does now that he's in this situation. So it's going to definitely be interesting, for one, to see how this Lolo thing plays out, especially with Dante without a badge now. Maybe Robin them could end up helping in this regard. I don't know. Because also he's in the same boat. Robin wanting revenge for, I mean, he was going to try and take down Lolo like the justified way. Like, I mean, not just like the TV show Justified Way, but, you know, obviously in the same boat of like, yeah, he was trying to handle things through the system. Like, obviously didn't always follow the right protocols to go about it, but yeah, he's trying to take him down as a police officer and have him arrested, take him down for Mandy's murder, not like he's not trying to kill him. So that's the difference. Like, Rob was actually out for blood when it came to Yancey, but it is a direct parallel of like, right, you're trying to get justice for a good friend of yours, and, you know, Rob was trying to get justice for her dad. So I thought it was I'm definitely going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. But finally, there's that ending where Rob is there because Vi was able to get the car back, because I mean, I guess they don't need it as like evidence anymore, and so I mean, there's probably not much evidence. There's some evidence they could get after 30 years, but still. But now Rob has the car and everything. It's in their garage, and her touching it, like going back to the beginning where she was like she had made that tape for her dad with his favorite song on it, and they're vibing and everything. And for him to turn to her and say thanks, obviously it's about that memory of like her making that tape for him, but it's also a little bit of like cathartic, almost being like, almost thank you for finally giving me peace too, baby. You know, because for him, and I don't think it's just about, it wouldn't just be about, oh, you took down a bad guy, you saw murder. It's like you also gave yourself peace because, once again, Robin's been living with this guilt for 30 years. Because I told her, it's like, those kids were going to come after your dad. Even if it wasn't that night, it would have been the next one. It would have happened eventually. So it had nothing to do with you. She was able to finally let go of all that guilt she's been holding on to all these years. And I think her dad that'd be the happiest thing he's about like not only getting justice, but also freeing his daughter of unnecessary guilt, you know. And that's the thing about guilt, it doesn't have to make sense. It could just be, it's there's no ever like balancing the scales in that regard, you know. Like, it's just something you can never, you know, as Harry put it, it's like it's a hole inside of you that you can never fill no matter what you do. But that's what Robin's been trying to do most of her life, is fill that hole. And now, you know, just that beautiful moment, just like her touching the car, and like I said, that thanks. Like I said, it's symbolic, I think, in multiple regards. And once again, just the face value of, hey, it's supposed to be a thanks for making this tape, but you could read it as like a cathartic thanks of, I'm finally at peace, and you need to be at peace too, baby, type of situation. So I thought that was beautiful, and for Vi and Dee to be by her side right there too. It's just, I don't know, It's just, well, like I said, that scene kind of brought me to tears. So I was pulling those tears back because they were about to start falling out. My eyes started watering. So I'm really curious to see where everything ends up taking us. The next episode is the season finale, so I'm curious to see ultimately what the story is going to be. Because I wonder, is it going to be something Fisk related? Because I think the only other through line that's still left now, like that overarching through line, is the Lolo stuff. So not unless that gets resolved, and who knows how that's going to conclude, if that's going to put Dante in a complicated situation by the end. We'll ultimately have to wait to see how this season ultimately comes to an end. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.